well too. Trying to heal myself, trying to heal my relationships, trying to heal my heart, trying to heal everything within me. And that's just what this entire conversation is about. It's about healing. And here's the thing about healing. Nobody can do it for you. It is your job and your work. It is your greatest work and your greatest job. God gave it to you before you came here. Okay? I always tell people I have a little bit of a different belief as to what our purpose here is as human beings. I believe that before we come down here to this earth, we have a council of elders and spiritual beings that get together with us and say, what do we want to learn on this journey when we go? We get other people who want to join on that journey with us. Some of you have decided before you even came here that, hey, Dr. Bobby, when you get down there, there's going to be a piece of me that I need to heal. I'm going to need you to help me do that. And I agree to that. Some of you I asked to come along the journey with me because there was going to be a part of the journey that a lot of people weren't going to be showing up for me. And you said, you know what, I'm going to show up for you when nobody else shows up for you. You agreed how tall you were going to be. You agreed to where you were going to be born. You agreed to your parents. You agreed to whatever dis-ease that you experience on this earth. Every heartbreak, every person that has come into your life, you made a spiritual agreement with before you came here. Which means that there are absolutely no consequences in life. Everything is intentional. Nothing is happening to you, everything is happening for you. Now that's a huge amount of responsibility to accept. Because now you cannot blame anybody. Even the person who is tormenting you, who broke your heart, the disease that is ravaging your body, you signed up for it. That is very scary when you come to that realization, because now you got to figure out what is the lesson. I was talking about this yesterday on a live, because somebody was asking me, how do you heal when somebody is in your life and you love them so much and they're part of the reason why you can't heal? And what I was telling them is that it's important for us to look at life differently. You have to look at yourself differently. A lot of us are looking at ourselves as just this baby that came out of its mother's womb, matriculated through school, matriculated through life, got married, had a whole bunch of experiences, and then one day I'll die, and then that'll be it. That is a very sad story that nobody wants to read. Okay? No, you're a spiritual being that decided to have a spiritual and human experience. Okay? And in this human experience, sometimes people are going to be a reflection of what you need in your life. And sometimes that's not good. It doesn't feel good. Sometimes that reflection is a reminder to you how poorly you made choices in your life. Sometimes it's a reminder to you to ask yourself, why don't you make better decisions? Sometimes it's a reminder, why don't you care and love yourself enough? So instead of looking at the situation like, this person is lying to me, this person is hurting me, I was explaining it's important to take this principle that I learned when I lived in India. You know, when they see each other, they greet each other with the word namaste. Namaste means, I recognize the God within you that is also within me. It's a beautiful way to greet somebody. You know, it's like that old story where, you know, imagine if God was coming down in human form and he decided to be a homeless person maybe one day, and then the next day he decided to be a policeman, and then the next day he decided to be, you know, a pastor, but every day he's just interchanging who he wants to be. And it's your job to figure out who God is, to recognize the God in the other person. And sometimes we walk right past God. And I'm saying to you that sometimes you're walking right past God because you believe that God is always presenting himself or the Spirit of God in a positive way. Some of you don't react to positivity very well. Some of you, in the light of positivity, it doesn't inspire you to become more evolved. I always say, and I say this in my book, Life is My Guru, for a lot of people, they continue to have these lessons that keep repeating and repeating and repeating. It's only because you refuse to learn the lesson. It's just like a grade or a class. If you take calculus, you don't pass it, you still got to take calculus. It doesn't go away. You don't get to change your major in life. And so sometimes you have to realize the lessons that we're getting in life that are literally just lessons and reflections of what life is trying to teach us as individuals, but also as a collective too. Because I believe that in a very sort of macro way, we're all connected and we're all the same. So when I see you, I see me, which is where the word namaste comes from. I recognize the God within you that is also within me as well too. So if I see you as God and I see myself as God, and then I see anything that I don't like coming from that, I'm seeing a reflection of me. Okay? I'm seeing a reflection of me. When I see lying coming from you, the first question that I ask myself in the position I am, I ask myself, how am I lying to myself? Is that I'm lying to myself that I want to be with this person because they keep a false reality going that I want them to keep going. So it's really important to understand that healing is the greatest thing you could ever do for yourself. There's nothing greater. And the beautiful thing about healing isn't just for you. A lot of the reasons we're having to heal is because of generational curses that continue to be passed down and passed down, generation after generation after generation. But the reason why it's being passed down is because nobody's doing the work. Nobody's doing the healing. So of course it's going to be passed down. Make sense? So it's hugely important to understand if you're ready to break generational curses, not just for you, but for your children and your children's children and the next generation and the generation after that, it's going to be on you. I tell people all the time, thank you for the support you give me because I don't do a whole bunch of selling. Like if you watch my content online, I'm not always saying buy this and buy that. I don't do that. And the reason why I don't do that is because I believe that I'm so fortunate that you do a better job of selling it for me. At the end of the day, it's the truth. But you're not even selling it, you're sharing your experience. You're sharing what it feels like to be healed, what it feels like to have more energy in your body, what it feels like to have more mental clarity, what it feels like to hear those intuitions that were coming in incorrectly, because I always tell people, yeah, everybody has intuition, and we all know our intuition comes from our gut, but if you feel a poo, you may be getting some poo-like intuition. See what I'm saying? So it's just really important to understand, like, when I tell you I wake up, and instead of looking at healing like work, I look at it like the greatest gift that God could ever give me. And every time you take one step in the direction of healing, everybody is watching. Your children are watching. That partner that you think it's time to leave, they're watching. How many of you have been doing my detox and somebody saw you do it and they're like, let me taste it. And then they taste it and they're like, oh. That tastes like grass. But they see you do it and you get to day 3. And they see you struggling. They're like, you need to quit and eat these wings with me. And then you get to day 5 and the taste changed a little bit. It ain't as bad as it used to be. Am I right? Okay, so you get to day 5, it don't taste as bad as it used to. Never tastes good, but it tastes like results.
I remember I did my detox. I couldn't stand meat.
You get to day 6 and they notice that, oh, your skin look a little better now. You get to day 7, day 10, and they're like, man, you losing a little weight? You get to day 14 and they notice you popping up in the morning. They notice that your energy is different, your attitude is different. They notice that you different. People at work walk up to you and like, you doing something different? That's what inspiration is. And that was just you doing your work. That was just you doing the detox. Now imagine if you start addressing generational traumas, things that happened to you when you were 8 years old, and you never forgave. Imagine if you start eating different, but when you go out, and you know when you go out, you get that cheesecake, and get that steak with the gravy, and a 7 cheese macaroni. And your friends, they already know what you get. They're like, same thing? And then you say, not today. And they're like, well, what you gonna get? And he's like, nah, I bought my food with me. Like, what you mean, you bought the hot sauce? And then you break out a salad with some coconut bacon and some hemp seeds and tomatoes and cucumbers and a little bit of avocado, and they're like, wait. So what you gonna eat with that? So they got jokes at first. And then the more consistent you are, and the more happy you are with your choice, they'll say, let me taste it. Oh, they ain't bad. Like we all got people who, choose to eat healthy, and then you bring your options on whatever holiday, and you set it out, and the first time nobody tastes it, and then the next time everybody eats your stuff up. Source of inspiration. I do it every time. Every time I go to see my family, I just bring a whole line of stuff. Before, nobody would taste it. I mean, I had to take everything back home. Oh, man. Make all these individual plates and then take them down to the neighborhood where I give them out to people. And then they question me like, oh, is this chicken? I used to say, no, that's Mickey. Mickey? Yeah, mushroom chicken. Oh, no, I'm good. I've had homeless people say, nah.
Oh, no.
Stuff made my stomach hurt.
Yeah, detox.
But that's the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing is you do that more consistently, all of a sudden, they're like, you want me to bring the wings? Or nah, bring the Mickey. It's the beautiful thing. It takes time. But just doing your work inspires others to want to become better. And that's what this is all about, because when you start to think about where we're at today in America, like, I'm trying to say this in a nice way, but they're trying to kill us.
Yeah, just say it. Straight up. They really are.
You are being poisoned. And if you were a killer, we are.
That's a
And
whole
you
lot
would
better.
understand that many of those things that sound like chemistry are actually chemistry, and they are in things like paint thinner
Yup.
and gas and other chemical products. If you understood what they really were, you will understand that with the statement that I just made before, when I said they're trying to poison us, we're being poisoned.
That's the
When you
truth.
start to think about how America's food is banned in other countries,
Yup. That's right.
all of Europe, okay, Japan, China, most industrial countries, our food is banned. And I'm not just talking about like a few foods. I'm talking about the food that you eat every day, Americans eat every day. Chicken is banned because they wash it in chlorine. Chlorine is a carcinogen, okay? Whatever you put tissue in, it absorbs, and when you eat that, you eat the chemical that it was in. Pork is banned in other countries because they feed it a chemical called ractopamine. Okay? Dairy in other countries is banned. You cannot send American dairy to other countries because they not only put hormones in it, okay? They not only put hormones, but they put antibiotics in it. I was just talking to a young lady earlier. Every course of antibiotics you take, it kills the good bacteria in your body. And if you were to look at the human body and look at the number of cells in the human body, 90% of them are bacteria and viruses. 90% of our cells. Right? I could go down a list of foods banned in other countries. As a matter of fact, the same food companies here that make those foods, they will send them to another country but put healthier ingredients in them. And guess what? Other countries that have banned those same products, they will make them in their country, not feed them to their people, but send them to America. Okay, so just listen. There was a moment where I was thinking like, man, this can't be true. This is like when I'm living in Japan, and I'm like doing all my research there, and I'm like, can't be like trying to poison us. Like, why would they do this? Like, you know, I just really believe in the good nature of people. And so I'm just sitting there thinking, but then I started to think to myself, there's no way I can think that way because I don't think that way. I would never think to poison somebody, so I can't think that way. So I said, okay, so don't think that way. Think as if you're a villain. All right? Think like a villain. All right? All right, so if I think like a villain, then what is the benefit to poisoning somebody? Okay? If you look at America, America's built on money. That's it. Everything is about money. All right? And there's a couple of industries that run America. All right? The food industry, the drug industry, the healthcare industry. Those are the three industries that pretty much run America. So if I'm thinking like a villain, think like this. Okay, if I poison the food, that means they get sicker. All right? If they get sicker, I get more patients. I get more patients, get more customers. Right? All right. I'm gonna poison the food. But the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kill the soil. I'm gonna take all the nutrients out of the soil so that even when you make the food, they'll be deficient. All right. You do that, still not sick enough. All right, so what do we do next? All right, let's put all types of chemicals in the food. All right? That'll not only help us because the food can stay on the shelf longer. All right? People eat more food in box, cans, jars instead of the real food. Right? They eat that food and stay on the shelf longer. We make more money. So now something that would have normally died in a week, okay, or spoiled in a week, now lasts 2 years. Okay? There's a huge difference between a jar like marinara and tomatoes. We know if you put tomatoes on the counter, it'll last about 7 days. Okay? Put a jar of spaghetti sauce on there, it'll last you 2 years. How did they do that? That's not magic. That's chemistry. Okay? So let's poison the food. Gotta poison the food. Alright? But if we're gonna poison the food, we're gonna make the soil depleted, that still ain't killing it. What we gotta do? Alright, let's spray it with chemicals. Let's spray it with pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides. Farmers used to wear overalls, now they have to wear hazmat suits. Okay? That ain't killing them either. Alright, cool. So what we need to do, we need to make all the information negative on the internet and social media. You remember back in the day when you would watch news, they would at least have that section where like a fireman got a cat out the tree or something. At least have a little bit of positivity. They even took that out. Let's make people divisive. Let's make people argue over whose sexual orientation is more important. Let's make the genders argue with each other so that they don't come together and build families. Let's make white people hate black people. Let's make Spanish people believe that they're just their own people and they don't belong to nobody else. Let's make them hate each other. Okay, let's create two parties and make them so divisive that they then argue with each other. Okay, that's still not killing. I got one more thing. All right, we're gonna use the drugs that we usually kill them with. We're gonna kill them with that. Have y'all noticed something called the opioid crisis? It's one of the leading causes of death for Americans. Kills about 100,000 people every year. Prescription drugs. As a matter of fact, medical error is the third leading cause of death. Exactly. That means that they gave you the right drug to the right patient in the right dose, and they still killed you. Third leading cause of death.
Doctors.
All right? So we're just gonna treat patients, and we're not gonna heal patients. What's the difference between treating and healing?
One is more money.
Treatment makes you a customer for the rest of your life.
Yep.
They invented the FDA in 1906. Not one drug of 1,000 drugs has ever cured diabetes, hypertension, strokes, nothing. Not one. But all of them make you a monthly customer. Okay, so treatment, no cures. What about the people who come out and say, hey, I know how to cure you? What do we do about them? Because they're gonna come. When they come, we're gonna kill them, or we're gonna defame them and discredit them. Okay? All right, cool, so we took care of them. What about the doctors? Okay, we ain't gonna even teach the doctors correctly.
Nope.
Do not teach them about nutrition.
Right.
You know what percentage of medical schools
I know.
teach their physicians nutrition?
A little bit.
Less than 5%.
That's a fact.
And then the 5% that get nutrition is the wrong nutrition in the first place. Because most of the guidelines are created by the same companies, the same food companies, that are actually poisoning you in the first place. If you go and look up the American Diabetes Association, look up who funds them, you're gonna see people like Coca-Cola. No, I'm not joking. Nestle. And if you don't believe me, when you go to the hospital,
McDonald's.
look at the food they feed you. Look at the food they feed you when you go to the hospital.
That's what I said.
Look at the restaurants that are in the hospital. McDonald's. And guess who in the line?
The doctors.
They in the line with you. Give you a story. When I was working in the hospital, we had a potluck. And so they said, Dr. Price, what are you bringing to the potluck? I said, I'm gonna bring some guacamole, a salad, and some walnut meat tacos.
I never had a walnut.
You know what the doctor said to me? He said, well, don't bring too much. I said, what are you going to bring? He said, I'm not kidding. I had never heard of this. He said, I'm bringing a 7-cheese macaroni. I said, is it 7 cheeses? He said, yeah. He said, it's so thick that when you put the spoon in it, you will see the cheese, no matter how high you raise it. I said, I gotta see it. Brings it to work, and when I see it, that's exactly what happens. I said, this is gonna give you a heart attack. You know what he said to me? Real statement. He said, I'm gonna double up my cholesterol medicine tonight. Real statement. So we'll make the doctors so ignorant of nutrition and real healing that when a patient comes in and says, I've been healed, they will argue with them. They won't even want to know. You know how many people who have done my detox, changed their diet, went into their doctor and said, hey, I don't need the medicine anymore. And the doctor never said, well, what did you do? They call it spontaneous healing. They don't even want to know. So think about that for a second. What does that do? You got doctors and nurses who aren't properly educated. They can't help you. Even the good ones who really want to help you, they're incapable because they're incompetent. They have never been taught what real healing is. There's a huge difference between treatment and healing. Treatment is manipulation of your biochemistry. Okay? When you get a diuretic because you have high blood pressure, it's one of the first medications that they give you, like HCTZ, hydrochlorothiazide, or Lasix, right? It is manipulating your biochemistry to make you pee. That's it. And when it does that, it causes the kidneys to spill out things that you need. All right? Now, if you were to consume cucumbers, which is a natural diuretic, it does not manipulate your biochemistry, it corrects your biochemistry. Huge difference between the two. When you manipulate your biochemistry, you have to do it every time. You have to do it daily, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day. That's why you give a dose, 1 pill 3 times a day, because you have to constantly manipulate your biochemistry. When you manipulate anything in life, it's never healed. You manipulate a person, the situation never gets better. All right, so it's no different when it comes to medication. When you correct the biochemistry, that's very different. And that's the difference between drugs and nature. Nature corrects your biochemistry, and the reason why it does is because you are nature. The saying ashes to ashes, dust to dust is real, because everything you are came from nature. At one point, you were one individual cell. That's it. And that cell split, and then continued to split, and then continued to split. And the reason why it was doing it is A, because it was programmed to do that, but secondarily, it's because it was being nourished. Okay? So you are nature. Everything about you is nature. There's no disconnect between you and nature and God. It is one thing. Okay? But what you get from drugs is not nature. Your body does not recognize it. It does not know what it is. This is why people who take drugs, at some point they become tolerant to it. Because again, it's manipulation. You can manipulate somebody once or twice, but at some point they're gonna be like, oh, you got it. That's exactly what happens inside of your body. It believes that you're trying to heal it, and then it figures it out, no you're not. So you become tolerant to it. Make sense? So healing is the greatest work you could ever do in life. My healing journey, as I've probably told you guys on many occasions, started as a child. And the healing journey for me started with trauma. You know, it's so funny. I lived in New York for a while. I lived in Brooklyn. Right there on McDonough between Malcolm X and Patrick. On Bed-Stuy. And I'll tell you, I lived in Bed-Stuy when Bed-Stuy was Bed-Stuy. So, and it was so funny because, you know, when I heard like hip hop growing up talking about Bed-Stuy, and then I got there, I was like, man, this ain't bad. But it wasn't bad because it wasn't far from my neighborhood. The rules were the same. So like moving to Bed-Stuy, like for me, it was like, man, it's like home. I know all the rules. I know what to do, what not to do, where not to go, when to go there, when not to go there. I know all the rules. I'm good. And I grew up in a neighborhood like that. And growing up in a neighborhood like that, by the time I was 12 years old, I had witnessed a friend kill another friend with a bat. My best friend and cousin was killed in a cop chase, and the car flipped over 22 times and hit a semi-trailer and ended up under it. So it killed my cousin. I had witnessed a lot of trauma. By the time I was 15, I lost all of my grandparents. I had a crew of friends of about 10, and by the time I was going to the 8th grade, only 3 of us were still either alive or not in jail. So that was my life at 14. And I remember transitioning from 7th grade to 8th grade. I had always made good grades. I don't know how I was that bad, but I still made good grades. But I knew that that was the thing that was gonna keep my parents off of me. You make good grades, you do what you wanna do. Like, that was kind of like how my parents were. And so as I go through all of this trauma, losing my best friend and cousin, losing my other best friend as well too, losing another friend who killed the friend, lost another friend who had a double homicide. He killed 2 people. Losing all these people, and now I finally feel alone, and I'm going to the 8th grade, and as I'm transitioning, I remember the first thing I said to myself was, I'm done with the streets. Like, I'm just gonna do my work. And I remember the first day of class in 8th grade. I go into the class, I sit down, and the books are already on the desk. I open up the book, and I'm looking at the book, and I'm like, right class. And as students are coming in, I'm noticing like, all right, so just to keep it real, you notice like the bad kids, you don't see them at school during the day. Okay, there's a reason why you don't see the bad kids in school during the day. But I'm noticing those kids I never see, they're coming into class, in my class. I ain't never been in a class with these kids. These are kids that I hang out with, but I know like, you know. And then I had this kid, his name was Rocky. Rocky was mentally retarded, but Rocky was like my little brother. So like I protected Rocky from people picking on him. And when Rocky walked into my class, I said, now I know I'm in the wrong place. So I raised my hand and I said, I'm in the wrong class. And she said, what is your name? And I told her my name. She said, nope, you're in the right class. So now I'm like freaking out because I'm like, this ain't right. So then open up the books, he says, okay, if Sally had 5 seashells and Tommy had 2 and Tommy gave her 1, how many seashells would Sally have? Raise my hand. Wow. I'm in the wrong class. Yeah. And she goes, I've told you you're in the right class. If you outburst again, I'm gonna send you to principal's office. I said, I'm going. So I get all my stuff up, and I go to the principal. And I say, look, I'm in the wrong class. I don't know how I got in there, but I'm just here to fix it. And he said, okay, come in. He said, you're on the basketball team, right? I said, yes, sir. He said, all right, let's look it up. He looks it up, and he goes, no, you're in the right class. I said, do you have my transcript? And he said, no, but I'm sure I can get it. But you're in the right class. I said, if you look up my transcript, you'll see I've only made 2 B's. Everything is an A. They're doing simple arithmetic. There's no way I can be in this class. He said, no, you're in the right class. I said, listen, I'm not in the right class. I said, what do I need to do to get out of this class? And we're going back and forth for maybe 15, 20 minutes because I refused to leave. And he finally said, look, if you got to get out of the class, you got to get your mom to sign a waiver. I called my mom. Now, my mom never graduated from high school. Really smart woman, but started having kids very early, so she never graduated from high school. Comes up to the school, and the first thing he tells her is like, look, your son is gonna do really well in this class. I don't know why he's upset. He goes through, does well in the class, we'll get him in a different class next year. My mom said, well, what's the problem? Like, just go do well? I was like, Mom, I'm not going back to the class because Rocky is in there. She said, Rocky is in your class? I said, yes, ma'am. And now my mom is like, so she signs a waiver, leaves the school, he's taking me to my new class. Taking me to my new class. I'm like, all right, I got that handled. He knocks on the door, tells the teacher to come. Now I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with these people. And he goes, okay, this is gonna be your new student. And she goes, you take pre-algebra? I said, no, ma'am. She looks at him like, he said, Principal, this is algebra. He goes, no, this is the only class you can go in. And she says, are you gonna be in any trouble? I said, nope, I will be no trouble. I said, I sit in that front seat right there every day. So she goes, okay. So I go into class, and she tells me it's gonna be very difficult for you in this class because you didn't even take the prerequisite, and this is also, this is a very advanced class. This is for kids who are college bound, et cetera, et cetera. I said, look, I was in the wrong class. So if you don't judge me based upon me being in the wrong class, I'll do all the work you won't have to worry about. So at the end of the semester, I ended up with an A in the class, right? And I'm getting ready to leave out, and she stops me and she says, stay behind. So I'm like, we go again. And she says, do you know he put you in this class to set you up to fail? I said, yep. And she says, if you knew that, why didn't you say anything? I said, people like me like this all the time. So it's, I'm used to it. And she says, well, you need to do this every time somebody does it to you. And I remembered that. I never forgot that. And the reason why I never forgot it was because she kept telling me during the class, she says, remember the first day. She said that every day. She would come by, hand me my grade. She said, remember the first day. Remember the first day. And the lesson I took from that is this. Sometimes in life, you're gonna be in places where you don't belong. And many of us will stay there, knowing that we don't belong. It's up to you to get up. You have to know where you belong in life. It's not up to a president. It's not up to your senator. It's not up to your mom, your dad. It's on you. You have to wake yourself up and know where you belong. But most importantly, you have to do the work to earn where you belong as well too. It's so important that you guys realize that. Because I took that lesson along with me, and the thing that made me decide that I wanted to be in health was when I lost my grandmother. Losing my grandmother was, for me, the moment that almost broke. And I was only 15 years old. But it was the moment that almost broke me, because I was like, okay, I lost my best friend, I lost my cousin who was my best friend, I lost my other friend. He's in prison for the rest of his life. As a matter of fact, he's still in prison today. Okay? And so the person that I said, I literally prayed to God. I said, please don't let my grandmother die before I go. I remember praying this prayer at 8. And when I got the call from my cousin to come home because our grandmother wasn't doing well, it still didn't compute to me. Because I grew up in one of those families, sort of like the movie Soul Food, where it's like people are always joking, there's always food and aroma, so when you walk in the house, you already know what's cooking on the stove. You know, cousin is joking this way, this cousin over here dancing, granddad sitting in that chair that he always sit every time. There's always an energy when you walk into my grandmother's house of love and care, because my grandmother had 11 children, okay? And those kids had 4 or 5 kids. So it would literally be like 60 people in the house on a Sunday. And I'm not joking, there would literally be 60 people in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-bath house. And everybody at some point stayed with my grandmother, okay? So that was my experience with my grandmother, and I loved how she nourished us and took care of us and was so eloquent with spreading love in such a way that everybody got an equal share. So when I get the call from my cousin to come home because grandma is sick and I'm playing basketball, all I can think was, well, what do you want me to bring her after I get through playing? She's like, no, it's not one of those. Like, you gotta come now. And so now I'm shocked. And as I walk into the house, the energy is different. Mm-hmm. No joking. Heads down, tears in the eyes. I know something is wrong. I've never seen it like this at my grandmother's house. And as I walk to the back, go into the room, the whole family is like surrounding my grandmother's bed, and there's one spot for me, because they were waiting for me. You know, my grandmother could barely talk, but they gave her some paper. She wrote my name down, like, for me to come. And so when I walk in the room, and everybody's crying in the room, I know, like, this is probably the last time I'm gonna see my grandmother. And so I just started crying and begging, like, you know, I can't lose her. And I was begging her not to go. Because I, honestly, in the moment, I didn't know if I lost her, like, I didn't know if I could continue. So I'm begging her to stay. And as she's literally looking up into the light, and she's crying, but she can't respond, I realized how selfish I was. I realized that she was holding on for me to get there. And so I told her it was okay to let go. And 2 minutes later, she passed. And it was in that moment that I said, because I had experienced so much death, that I said, I have to do something so I can be an answer. And that's why I decided to go into healthcare. I said, well, at least nobody has to die from diabetes or colorectal cancer. And as a matter of fact, when you look at the statistics on Black and brown people around colorectal cancer, we get diagnosed 20% more, and we're 40% more likely to die from when it comes to colorectal cancer, which is what Chadwick Boseman the actor and the Black Panther died from. Okay? So that's what inspired me to do what I do today. But most importantly, what it inspired me to do was find the truth. I never cared about having a white coat. I never cared about being called a doctor. None of that mattered to me. The only thing I could think about was I want to be like a medicine man who goes into the jungle, finds a medicine, brings it back to the people, and heals somebody. Like that was what I thought medicine was. And of course, it was a very delusional version of what medicine was, but that's what I believe. And so as I go through school and then start working in the hospital, work for the FDA, I quickly found out that's not what it is. But more importantly, I discovered that I'm getting unhealthier by the day. As a matter of fact, the year after my grandmother passed, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure at 16. Now, I never looked into why I had high blood pressure because I was an athlete. I only had about 7% body fat, both in college and in high school. But that's what I'm talking about when it comes to trauma. It's not just what you're eating that makes you sick. It's what you're not forgiving. It's what you're not healing emotionally, spiritually. And so I had high blood pressure and an enlarged heart because I had a broken heart. Now I was living with that. And as I'm in the hospital and I'm noticing that I'm 45 pounds heavier than I was as a freshman, and I'm noticing that there's inflammation all through my body, I'm noticing that I have sleep apnea. I stop breathing when I go to sleep. My girlfriend at the time would have to wake me up because she would hear me like stop breathing. I'm noticing that there are people coming in the hospital my age who are having heart attacks and strokes and dying. Now I know that I'm next. I know that it's not even a possibility, it's just a matter of when. So it was that moment that I said, well, how are you gonna help somebody else if you don't help yourself? And so I literally was trying everything. I tried every diet you can imagine. Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, E90X, and Sean T, and Billy Blanks. I was trying everything. And nothing was working. I would lose like 5 pounds, and then the next week it would be right back home. My blood pressure would dip, and then it would go right back up. Nothing was working. So literally, out of desperation, that's why I decided I was like, I'll try this no meat thing for 21 days. And I literally called my mom and told her I was going to do it. Thought I was crazy. But I said, on day 21, I want you to make me this meal. Okay? And she was excited about it because that's what my mom does. I'm my older son. She cooks for me. And so by day 17, I had lost like 17 pounds, 21 pounds actually. And I also noticed that my blood pressure went down. That was the first time that I seen my blood pressure go down. The first time I heard about blood pressure, it was already high, so I only knew high blood pressure. So by day 20, I called my mom and said, well, we're gonna have to delay the meal. And she said, why? I said, well, I lost 17 pounds and my blood pressure getting better. And she was like, well, you can eat. I was like, I said, I think it's the food, Mom. So I went 30 days, and by day 29, I had lost an additional 5 pounds, and my blood pressure went down again. It was borderline normal now. On day 29, I called my mom again. Well, we got to delay the meal. And she said, why this time? I said, I lost some more weight and my blood pressure better. I sent her the numbers and she was like, oh. She's like, so, when you want me to cook this? I said, I'm going to do it for 60 days. right, detox, exercise properly, meditate daily. In 60 days, I'll probably be so healed, Mom, like one of those meals can't kill me. In 60 days, I lost 45 pounds and I normalized my blood pressure to essentially like a 13-year-old girl's blood pressure. Like 110/70. My sleep apnea resolved. The inflammation in my body resolved. What I didn't know was impotence resolved. I found that out. My girl at the time, she was super nice, I guess. See, the thing is, like, when you lose that amount of weight, like 45 pounds in 60 days, that's a lot of weight to lose. And you go to see your family and they see you and they're like, damn, you sick? Got rumors going around, he got cancer. Ain't never cancer. I've seen cancer, that's cancer. But my girl was like, she didn't even like the weight loss because I just looked like a football player. So she didn't even like the weight loss, but she was like, well, I don't like the weight loss, but we're gonna keep the bedroom. I said, what you mean? She said, well, the bedroom is like better. I said, so what was it then? So it resolved everything, stuff I didn't even know I had a problem with. And my patients, because I was like one of the few black doctors at the hospital, so anybody who was like black or Spanish, like they'd be sitting there and their doctor tell them what's wrong with them and they looking confused like, oh, okay, yeah. And then they'll go see me and go, and they'll give me their paper like, so what is he saying? They started to notice. They were like, damn, doc, you look 10 years younger. I got a visible neckline, Before I was like head and neck, head and shoulders. And so they started asking me, what the hell are you doing? And I just started taking out my prescription pad and just writing, giving them what I did. And one by one, they were coming back. Hey, I had diabetes. My doctor took me on the diabetes medication. I'm off my high blood pressure medication. It helped my lupus. People were just coming back, and I'm like, because in my mind, I was like, this worked for me. I don't know if it works for you. Like, I wasn't taught this in school. But now I'm realizing that, no, this heals everybody. And all I had to do was reconnect with nature, and then reconnect them back with nature. And so people started calling up to the pharmacy, and I would get random hey, let me speak to that doctor. And they'd be like, this is a hospital setting. The black one. You do have more than one black doctor. The one with the waves. Oh, Dr. Price, okay. And then they get on the phone whispering, man, I need that thing that me and my uncle, thing. The thing, you passed him up, man. You got him out of there. Like, sir, you sound like a drug dealer. But they were talking in code because they realized that what I was doing was cool, but it wasn't good for the system. They realized that when you start healing people, it breaks down the entire system. The entire system. When you get healed, this whole system that is enslaving us, this whole system that is poisoning us, it breaks down. The whole system is founded on your compliance with poison. If you get healthy, drug industry goes black, nobody's using it. People don't even like drugs anyway. So if they find a healthy alternative that is natural, the whole drug industry goes gone. All right? The healthcare industry. Hospitals are based upon the number of beds they have and the number of prescriptions they hand out and the number of surgeries they do. You get healthy, the hospitals that have 800 beds go to 100 beds. Hospitals kaput. Insurance companies. Who's gonna pay $800 for insurance for a family when nobody ever gets sick? Insurance companies go put. Food industries here. As soon as you start eating real food and stop buying foods in box, bag, cans, jars, full of preservatives, thickening agents, emulsifiers, things that are literally killing you. As soon as you stop buying them, those industries go bankrupt. So as soon as you get healthy, you change everything. You rock the very system that is making us a slave. That's how powerful you getting healthy is. And they know that. So that's why as soon as people like myself and others start speaking about you becoming healthy, you're embracing a more holistic approach to health, you becoming your first physician. Your physician should be your second opinion. Even when you go to your doctor, they have to ask you questions. Like, okay, tell me what's going on. What kind of symptoms? How long you had them? And then they go into the computer, put exactly what you said in there, wait for it to come back, and then they say, okay, I'm gonna write you this prescription. You're your first doctor. Your second doctor is nature. So you becoming a healer of self is the most revolutionary thing you could ever do. There's nothing more revolutionary than that. Because that's the thing that connects you back with God. That's the thing that connects you with the God within you as well, too. We all get to experience that. We all get to experience what it feels like to be connected with God in like fleeting moments. But imagine if the rest of your life is like that. Imagine if you, in a moment, you got told what your purpose was. And then God told you how to achieve that purpose. And then God sent people to help you achieve that purpose. And then God started eliminating people who were blocking you from achieving that purpose. I tell people all the time, because what happens is as you elevate, it becomes more and more lonely. Because as you elevate, the more light shines outside of it. And anytime light comes into play, darkness cannot exist in the presence of light. So I'm absolutely disgusting and detestable to anything that isn't about growth, good, and positivity. But you have to accept that. You have to accept that not only that's your journey and that's what you deserve, you have to accept that that is what you are. You're not healed, you're not healing, you are a healer. You're not of God, you are God, sent here by God. And if you think of yourself anything less, you'll get less. You cannot get healing from a space of lack and poverty mindset. Healing is something that comes from abundance. When you heal, you don't just heal your body, you heal your finances. You heal your relationship. You heal how you think. You heal your beliefs. You heal the people around you by simply being healed. You inspire them to want to become healed. There's nothing greater than wanting that for yourself. And I want that for you. I do what I do because I want that. I'm addicted to feeling amazing. When I say feeling amazing, I mean feeling connected with God. It's my journey and my mission to create spaces and give information to inspire you to do the same. But nobody can do it for you. I can't do it for you. Mama can't do it for you. Husband can't do it for you. Wife can't do it for you. And if you don't do it, your children won't do it. It's going to be a generational curse. And I know it's difficult when you start to think about food addiction and the fact that they're poisoning everything, and you got doctors who just don't know better. I know it's difficult. But when you think about the benefits of what's on the other side of healing and what's on the other side of health, and what that experience will be like, you're completely, utterly connected to God and everything around you. There's no other opportunity or option but to do the healing. So I'm going to give you a few things before I get out of here that's going to help you on your journey. First thing you got to do is you got to heal your mindset. Don't even start with what to eat. Don't worry about that. You got to heal this, because this has been programmed to be sick. This has been programmed to be anti-self-care. This has been programmed for you to give away your greatest gift, which is your divinity. Your connection to nature, your connection to God. You have to adopt a healer's mindset. What is a healer mindset? That means that your mind is not only under the impression, but under the knowing, and over the knowing, that every tissue, every organ, every cell, every atom, every molecule in my body is not only directed, but commanded and demanded towards healing, elevation, positivity, and upliftment of self and anything that comes into contact. If you don't believe down to the atom of your body, the atom of your molecule, that you're capable of healing, you won't. Because the same way you're capable of making yourself sick with anxiety and depression, you have the same capability of healing yourself. So you got to have a healer's mind first and most important. If you don't change this, nothing else will change, because 87% of our thoughts are negative. We have about 67,000 thoughts every day, and 87% of them are negative because society has programmed us to be that way. So you got to change this first, okay? The next thing you have to do is embrace everything from nature. Everything comes out of nature. Clothes you're wearing are supposed to come out of nature. Natural clothes, not polyester. I'm talking about real cotton, real linen, real silk comes from nature. And those are high vibrational fabrics too. Polyester is a toxic fabric. It's a low vibrational fabric. Clothes come from nature. Your food comes from nature. The houses that we build come from nature. Everything comes from nature. So if everything comes from nature, and billions of humans have been on this earth, and nothing has run out. The same mango tree that was producing mangoes 2,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, is still rocking mangoes today and producing mangoes. That means that nature is infinite. It will never run out. Okay? So the same healing that healed our ancestors 10,000 years ago is the same healing that heals us today. We've just been treated out of it. So we have to embrace nature, because we are nature. The next thing you need to do is you need to detoxify your life. Anything that is no longer serving you or nourishing you, you have to remove it. Even if there is an addiction there. Food is the socially accepted addiction. The socially accepted addiction that we allow ourselves and allow others to corroborate our addiction. Hugely important. important. You have to detox the people. To embrace transformation, you're going to have to become somebody different. You can't be who you are. Transform. There's a huge difference between change and transformation. Transformation leaves nothing behind from what you are that wasn't consistent with what you always were. Transform. Okay? Detox your life. Detox your thinking. Detox how you speak. Detox what you listen to. Detox the people around you. Detox the environments you go into. Detox who you share your body with. Because that's a form of intoxication as well. Okay? The next thing is you have to heal your trauma. You've read my book, Life is My Guru. I'm being vulnerable with you, sharing my traumas with you so that it'll inspire you to do the same. Be vulnerable with yourself to discover those traumas. Read that book. Some of you can't heal because you're not willing to deal with the trauma. And I'm not saying the trauma that happened to you when you were 30 or 40 years old. I'm saying the 8-year-old version of you. You have to heal your trauma. Because your trauma is what's sabotaging. It's what's keeping you stuck. All right? You gotta say all right. The last thing is, I want you to remember, the highest version of you is the healed version of you. It's connected to everything that's connected to your divine inheritance. Your abundance, the relationships you dream about, the children you want, the life you want. There's nothing that isn't at your fingertips. Everything you dream about is inspired from a seed that was already there because you're capable of having it. But the only thing is your divine inheritance is tied to you being the healed version. Because that was the only version of you that was supposed to be created in the first place. And Earth took that away from you. But it's your job to be. Thank you.